All right, today's presentation, lucid dreaming and hypnosis. The question I have for you is, what if the real world is the dream world and the dream world is more like the real world? Some Tibetan Buddhists, and other people who have died and came back to life actually believe this to be true. But if it's true, it's hard to say. We wouldn't know. But if it was true, wouldn't you want to understand what the dream world actually is? Wouldn't you want to experience the dream world as well as you could to the most highest potential? What if you were to control your dreams, stop them in their tracks, or create an object and make it disappear, or even talk to your inner child? You might be wondering, are these things even possible? But the better question would be, what's not possible with lucid dreaming? Okay. Today's topic is going to be what is lucid dreaming, how to lucid dream, lucid dreaming applied to hypnosis, and future ideas for research. The term lucid itself is kind of an interesting word because it's kind of confusing. The word means translucent, luminous, uh, sane, as in not insane, and clear to understanding. Lucid dreaming, however, is a dream in which a person is aware that they are dreaming and can often control actions in the dream. So there's a slight difference in the term lucid and lucid dreaming, and there's an explanation for that. This guy on the right here, a Dutch psychiatrist, Frederick Wilhelm van Eden, um, was the one who coined the term lucid dream. And some have suggested that the term is a misnomer because Van Eden was referring to a phenomenon more specific than a lucid dream. Van Eden intended the term lucid to denote having insight, as in the phrase a lucid interval applied to someone in temporary remission from psychosis, rather than a reference to the perceptual quality of the experience, which may or may not be clear or vivid. So that confusion is what caused the term lucid dream to be what it is. But I like to use a better term, not not today, but to describe it. A better term could be dream direction. And this is what French sinologist Marie-Jean Lyon uh, wrote in his published book, Dreams and the Ways to Direct Them, Practical Observations. Um, So essentially, when you have a lucid dream, you're able to direct the dream from start to finish. A normal dream, however, is already directed for you. You don't control usually any aspect of the dream. And so that's the difference between a dream and a lucid dream is you're able to stop the dream, rearrange anything in the environment, and do whatever you want. It could be considered the sandbox of dreaming. There's endless possibilities of what you can do. Imagine the creative dreams that you've already had where you're flying, over the mountains or swimming underwater or um, in outer space or even in another dimension. All of these creative environments you are able to use in a lucid dream, and you're even able to go to even greater places. You can kind of compare it to VR. A lucid dream is very immersive, very interactive, and you're able to do, again, whatever you would like to do. It feels like you're physically there, just like in VR, it feels like you're physically in that video game. Compare that to television. Television is kind of like dreaming or regular dreaming. You're kind of an observer and watching the plot of the dream pass by you. It may sometimes feel like you're making decisions in the dream, but those decisions are based on your perception that you are actually in waking consciousness. An example would be you're driving a car and running away from the cops in a dream because you think those cops are real. You're deciding to drive away from the cops. But if you realized you were in a dream, you would stop running away from the cops. Another example is a children's book I used to read as a kid. It was actually one of my favorite books, and it's called Harold and the Purple Crayon. Harold and the Purple Crayon, this little fella here, he goes through the story and he essentially creates anything he wants with this purple crayon. And I was fascinated with this book as a little kid, and I almost think it's a foreshadowing of why I'm interested in this topic because it is almost paralleled to lucid dreaming. This child is able to create whatever he wants in his dream in his environment with his purple crayon. So that's a good visual representation of what a lucid dream kind of is like. Okay, so this is the story of my first lucid dream. The night before, I gave myself an affirmation. I said, "Tonight I will have a lucid dream." And I might have done this for a couple nights, or I might have did it on the first night. And I said that to myself right before I was going to bed, and then I was meditating. And I might have had a couple dreams. And then one of the dreams I was watching TV on this television screen right here. It's an odd television just like this. It looked like a box television from like the 80s. And for whatever reason, I was watching static. So, um, um, but what happened is I noticed what's called a dream sign. And what a dream sign is an indication that you're dreaming. Something that doesn't make sense and would only make sense in a dream. And that dream sign was having a TV. When I was living at that point, I didn't have a TV at the moment. I was between moving and whatnot. So I didn't have a TV. And I said, wait a minute, I don't even have a TV. And that, and then in that exact moment, I woke up in the dream. And this is the crazy part. When I woke up in the dream, everything hyper visualized. Everything got more clear, more visual. It looked like 4K, but on steroids. I looked at my hand looked physically like it was right in front of me. And then I decided to stand up to see what would happen. And when I stood up, I felt all of the leg muscles in my legs move as if I was actually standing. And then when I walked around the room, it felt so real. It felt like I was actually in the room. It didn't feel like, compared to regular dreams, it didn't feel like I was just watching a dream. Now, I do have a curious question. If you guys could raise your virtual hand, how many of you guys had a lucid dream? Just a show of hands if anyone has. Nobody? All right. Oh, okay. Two guys. Sweet. Okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Awesome. Okay. Paul Thoele laid the epistemological basis for the research of lucid dreams. He laid down 7 points that almost every lucid dream has. The first one is awareness of the dream state, knowing that you're in a dream. Two is the awareness of the capacity to make decisions in the dream. Now, most dreams, it feels like you're making decisions, but the difference between that and a lucid dream is you're making decisions knowing that you're in a dream. So if you were talking to someone and you thought it was real life, even though it's a dream, you would be engaged in talking to them because you don't ignore people. That's not a polite thing to do. But when you realize it's a dream and you realize that character in front of you is a dream character and not a real person, you're more prone to ignore them. And you might even choose to ignore them. So that's one of the decisions you might try to make. Um, Awareness of memory function. So in regular dreams, we forget about what happened yesterday and we forget about what's going to happen in the future. We can have dreams about our past and about our future, but it's not a cohesive memory like we do right now. We have very close to the same memory function in a lucid dream as we do in the waking state. Awareness of self. You are aware of your body and your movements. You know how I was talking about how you can feel your body moving, um, and you're aware that you're in the dream yourself. Number five, awareness of the dream environment. You're aware that everything around you is not real. Number six, awareness of the meaning of the dream. Now, oftentimes when we're having a dream, whatever it is in our dream, uh, we don't understand the symbology until after we wake up. We think if there's a tiger chasing us, then that means there was a literal tiger chasing us. But when you wake up, maybe you associate the symbol of a tiger to like a family member or a fear, you know, and you understand that symbolism. Um, Awareness of the concentration and focus. So your ability to concentrate and focus on things rather than letting things happen to you, and the clarity of the dream. Another study done by I can't say that name, Deirdre Barrett examined whether lucid dreams contain four corollaries or absolutes of lucidity. These were so pretty much it was saying is um, four sub-knowns that every lucid dream has. And then Barrett found out that these are only present in a quarter of lucidity accounts. So one of them is dreamer is aware that they are dreaming. They are aware of the actions will not carry over after waking up. Physical laws don't apply to the dream, and the dreamer has a clear memory of the waking world. So the reason I put this in is because lucidity can be more like a spectrum. You can, while having a lucid dream, go back to a regular dream and forget you're dreaming. And then you can wake up again and then forget you're dreaming. So there's kind of levels of lucidity. Some dreams I know I'm dreaming, but I don't have full control of the dream, or I can't control my body movements. So there's definitely a spectrum of lucidity. Um, does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. What is not a lucid dream? So don't pay attention to this photo on the right here. I'll explain it in a minute. It's probably a weird one. So I think I mentioned this. When you make choices in the dream that make sense within the plot of a dream. So, like I said, if you're um, maybe you have a pet cat in a dream and you're petting it because you think it's a real cat, you're choosing to pet it, you're choosing to love the cat, but um, you know, that's a choice because you believe it's a real cat. Um, Not to say if it was a lucid dream, you wouldn't pet the cat anyway, but it's another example. Like if you're running away from a Tyrannosaurus Rex in a dream because you believe it's real, you're choosing to run away. Um, but that's because you believe it's real. You're following the plot of the dream. Having dreams about lucid dreaming, but not actually being lucid. So you can have dreams about the topic of lucid dreaming. Like you might have dreams about this class or about, you know, I had a dream about my dream journal where I was trying to find my dream journal to write down my dream. Because I had a lucid dream right before that part of the dream. And I was trying to write down my lucid dream. And I was having a dream about lucid dreaming, but I wasn't lucid. And in that dream, I was choosing to look for, I was looking under pillows and stuff for my book. So I was choosing to do that. But that's because I believed it was a real experience. I didn't know it was a dream. Astral projection or out of body experiences. That's what this photo is on the right. Now, this is a kind of debated topic if you can actually leave your body, but essentially what's going on is your spirit body right here is leaving your physical body, and this happens allegedly every night when you sleep. And that's well, the theory is by some spiritual teachers is that it allows your spirit body to like unwind and move about. So so that's not a lucid dream though, but you can become lucid while having an out of body experience. So the two are kind of connected and very close. I have another weird photo for you. I'll explain in a minute. So, all right, daydreaming. Daydreaming is very similar to lucid dreaming, but it's not the same. And the key difference is that during daydreaming, you can't actually see dream imagery, but you can control a daydream from beginning to end. You can control who's in your daydream, you can control their environment, you can control everything in your daydream, just like how you can control in a lucid dream. Now, some people can daydream and let the dream flow as if, it is a dream, and you can have a non-lucid daydream. Um, Hypnosis is not the same as a lucid dream. It's very different. It's more similar to daydreaming. Hypnagogic imagery. I'm going to explain hypnagogic imagery on the next slide. And this right here on the right, this picture is what is referred to as sleep paralysis. It is a state in which your body cannot move during sleep. So your body paralyzes itself during sleep so that it doesn't act out its dreams. If that mechanism fails, it causes our body to sleepwalk. This can also happen with sleep, like talking in our sleep. If that motor function fails, we talk in our sleep because we're not paralyzed. So in the inverse of that, if you are still paralyzed but your eyes wake up, then you get into a state of sleep paralysis. And because this happens during REM sleep, which is the stage where dreams occur, you can often hallucinate in this state. And because our rooms or the places we sleep are often dark, the shadows in our rooms can look very ominous and scary and not very pleasant. So these figures right here, like this what would you call that? An orc or something, and this other demon. These are some of the images you might see in sleep paralysis. Now, this 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 state of sleep paralysis can occur for some people who try to have lucid dreams. It's more likely to occur. Okay. We were talking about hypnagogic imagery. This is an example of hypnagogic imagery. Hypnagogic imagery occurs right before the dream state, or it can occur right after the dream state. It can be visuals like this. You can see little patterns, little dots of sparks or white light or any color light. Um, you can even see faces. You can hear noises. One time I heard the sound of wind rushing through my ear. It was a really weird sensation. Um, and you can have the feeling of falling. I'm sure a lot of you guys have felt that while falling asleep. You feel the sensation that your body is falling. That is hypnagogia. This occurs often to people who meditate. The longer you meditate, the more likely you are to reach this state. And it can even happen during hypnosis. People can see this type of imagery in hypnosis as well. I had a client that did say he saw random flashes of light, and that means that he was about to enter the sleep state. Okay, so this next slide I was going to talk about, I almost didn't put it in this PowerPoint because it is pretty terrifying, pretty scary. Um, it's talking about sleep paralysis again. But for people who are interested in this topic, and if you end up trying to teach this to your clients yourself, you're going to want to know about this phenomenon and you're going to want to let them know about this phenomenon. Knowledge about this phenomenon makes it less scary and often creates a scenario to where the scary entities that can appear, like this one here, these scary entities won't appear as often if you understand what sleep paralysis is. Okay. So, scary story time. This guy on the left here was in a dream of mine, and I was having a dream I was going to an auto auction in the middle of the night and in a cornfield of all places. So, um, I'm going towards this auction, this car auction. This guy's walking away from the car auction, and we kind of rub shoulders while we're passing. And then I stop in my tracks. And I'm like, I get this deja vu moment, like I know this guy from somewhere. And so I turn around and I ask him, "Hey, don't I know you from somewhere? Like I've seen you before." And I couldn't see his face or anything. I just saw this. And what he does in the dream is he rushes towards me, like almost like he's gonna attack me, right? And so I wake up like a normal nightmare, except I'm in sleep paralysis. And what happens is I see that figure on the right hand of the screen right here. If you can see it, it's kind of dark, but hopefully you can see that. This figure is at the foot of my bed. And then this figure rushes towards me. And at this point, I'm absolutely terrified. I'm like, what is going on? Am I being possessed? Is there a demon or something trying to attack me? Um, and it gets worse. This guy starts strangling me with his hand. And I'm like beyond terrified at this point. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm gonna die, is what I thought. And so I somehow mustered up the ability to raise my hand and start strangling him. Even though I was paralyzed, somehow I was able to do it. And so I start strangling him, and he starts strangling me. And this lasts for about 30 seconds, but feels like an hour. I feel like I can't breathe. Um, and then eventually it all passes. My hand falls, the guy disappears. I'm still absolutely panicked out of my mind. I'm like, what the heck was that? But the whole scene disappears, and I wake up. And I look up online right after this. It's like 12 o'clock at night. I'm looking up Shadow Man on Google, and he pops up. Supposedly, a lot of people who have sleep paralysis see a man with a cloak and a hat. My theory is that it's kind of an archetype of an ominous figure, and that's why this is so common. Or, of course, maybe it is a demon entity that's trying to steal our souls. Who knows? You know? Um, so then the explanation. I have a rational explanation for rational people, and then explanation for people who are more spiritually uh, tuned in. So the rational explanation is the figure always replaces a shadow in the room or an object. The next days after that event, I had another one where I saw this huge guy that was really big, and he had a really big round head. And what it was is I had a hat hanging up that was really round, and I had a coat that was hanging up that was really large. And so after I woke up out of that dream and saw that it wasn't a real guy, it was just a my coat and my hat, that's when I was like, oh, these are just figments of my imagination. It's got to be. But in that dream state, when you're in that sleepy REM sleep, you hallucinate. I saw a literal face on that hat. Um, so So when in a state of fear, fear will project into the dream state. So when we're again, when we're in a state of fear, when our bodies are paralyzed, it raises our level of fear. Like you not being able to move is going to raise your level of fear. Couple that with being in a very dark room, that's going to exacerbate our fear. How many horror movies have you seen where it's sunny, bright, and there's flowers everywhere? I don't think I've seen a single horror movie where that's the case. It's always in a dark alley or in a dark room at night, you know. We associate dark environments with scary situations. Sleep paralysis occurs more if you have high stresses in your life. And this is true when I had higher stresses in my life, I did have sleep paralysis more. So what I recommend if you have a client that gets this issue is find ways to mitigate the stress. And you can even use lucid dreaming to confront the hidden meaning or the fear. Uh, you can meet these, you could even meet the shadow guy if you have this guy come in your dreams, and you could stop him and you'd be like, "Hey, who are you? What do you represent?" And then he takes off his mask and it's like, "Oh, I'm actually your father." Or, "Oh, I'm actually your finances or something," you know, and it tells you that. For those who are more spiritual, the idea I propose is that you might be in a state of low vibration. So, what does that mean? You need to find ways to raise your vibration. Fear is a low vibrational state. So, don't allow yourself to be in a state of fear. These beings, if you want to call them that, may feed off of negative energy. So, again, don't give it to them. They cannot hurt you. Guys, I was literally strangled for 30 seconds by this entity and I'm not dead. So, whatever he did, I don't think he hurt me. I don't think I'm still possessed. Maybe I am, I'm not sure, but I don't think so. I didn't get any scars on my neck. Um, and whenever I had these events again, nothing else ever happened. Um, this can be a motivator if this happens to you to become more spiritually devoted in spiritual attunement or your religious practices, um, or into like things like lucid dreaming and meditation. Um, and you can use lucid dreaming or Reiki or what have you, some spiritual practices to fend off and protect yourself or release these entities from yourself. Now, a key point here is this is all part of a belief system. Keep that in mind. So, when you believe that these entities are in fact real, then your fear will automatically be higher. So, you're almost creating a barrier for yourself. When you realize that they're just objects in your room and you're hallucinating them, then the fear goes away. I had a dream, another sleep paralysis dream, but it started off as a dream. I woke up, but I thought I was dreaming. And instead of a scary entity coming into my bed, it was my cousin. He came in, he was talking about something. I was like, "What's going on?" You know, and I was sleeping. I could tell I was sleeping. And then I realized I was in sleep paralysis. And what happened was because I was afraid of being in paralysis, my fear raised, and my cousin morphed into a scary figure. He started to try to like engulf the whole area above my bed, like kind of like hover over it and stretched in a weird way. And so I closed my eyes and I heard the sound of a dog or a wolf sniffing in my ear. And I kind of have had that fear of my life of, being hunted by a rabid wolf. Um, so these are all just personifications of fear. Because I was in a state of fear, it caused my cousin to turn into an evil monster. This can happen in dreams as well. Have you ever thought in a dream like, "Oh, I hope no one pops up around that corner." And guess what happens? Somebody pops up around the corner. Because you think of the fear, it occurs in the dream. And that's true when you're in sleep paralysis. Okay, so the big takeaway here is lucid dreaming can end all nightmares. And I'm going to I'm going to explain that later in the slides. But keep in mind, this isn't a real, in my opinion, this isn't a real phenomenon of an actual entity attacking you. Some of your clients might believe that, and you can try to persuade them to understand the science, but they might be strongly held in their beliefs. So keep that in mind. Lucid dreaming was referred to in Tibetan Buddhism as dream yoga. Um, the cultivation of such a practice was common among early Buddhists. The goal of dream yoga is to wake up to one's fundamental nature and clear awareness. The practice involves working with the mind in context of a dream and then applying the insights gained to daily life. So, is this what the Tibetan Buddhists meant by like a spiritual awakening or spiritual attunement? Who's really to say? But I'll explain next slide of a spiritual lucid dream that I had. So I woke up and in this dream I couldn't move, but I was like laying down under a tree just like this one on the one on the left. It kind of looked artistically like the trees on the right here, but with the color differences of the ones on the left. And I didn't have any desire to move. I was just so ecstatic and elated by seeing this beautiful scene of these trees. And remember, when you're in a lucid dream, everything's hyper visualized. So this was very, very hyper visualized. I could see every individual leaf on the tree, and it was just, it all sparkled in the sun, and it was amazing. It was like this euphoric feeling, almost like being in like heaven or something. Now, this was one of my favorite lucid dreams, and I didn't even do anything in the lucid dream. I just kind of sat in this space of peace, and it felt very peaceful. So lucid dreaming, you don't have to always do something in the dream. You can just have the experience itself be very spiritual and be very profound. So more history. We don't have too much time to go into history. But Aristotle, one of those famous white guys we all know, he he talked about lucid dreaming once or twice. So um, there's the world's first recorded female lucid dreamer wrote the book Studies in Dreams. And she was known for her ability to become aware and take control of the dreams. Um, Arnold Foster was her name. Documented her experiences, shedding light on dream control, manipulating dream environments, and even interacting with dream characters. Her work has served as a foundation for many lucid dreaming techniques used today. Here are some other individuals in history that either mentioned having lucid dreams or wrote books or studies on them. Okay. So, what can you do with lucid dreaming? What I talked about earlier is overcoming nightmares. So this is one example from Stephen LeBurge's book, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. Highly recommend reading that because it goes a lot more in depth in lucid dreaming. So, for overcoming nightmares, this man, Paul Tholey, was in a dream, and then it starts with, I became lucid while being chased by a tiger and wanted to flee. I then pulled myself back together, stood my ground, and asked, Who are you? The tiger was taken aback, but transformed into my father and answered, I am your father, and I will now tell you what you are to do. In contrast to my earlier dreams, I did not attempt to beat him, but tried to get involved in a dialogue with him. I told him that he could not order me around. I rejected his threats and insults. On the other hand, I had to admit that some of my father's criticisms were justified, and I decided to change my behavior accordingly. At that moment, my father became friendly, and we shook hands. I asked him if he could help me, and he encouraged me to go my own way alone. My father then seemed to slip into my own body, and and I remained alone in the dream. I thought that was a pretty short and powerful story of overcoming a nightmare, especially for people who have reoccurring nightmares. You can find out not only how to end them, but find out the hidden meaning behind them. Who would have guessed that a tiger represented this man's father? It's hard to tell in dreams. A lot of dream analysis is very hard to tell, you know, and so this can be an important tool for you to learn what the metaphors in your dream actually are. And you can do this not with just with scary events. You can ask what anything in the dream meant. You could even spawn something in one of your dreams that you had before and you're not sure what it meant. You can spawn it and then ask it, "Hey, what were you? What did you mean?" And so that can become very powerful. Okay. So what else can you do? This is a story of an individual who was artistically inclined in music, professional music, and she was able to practice playing the French horn in her dreams. She was able to use all of the keys. I don't know what a French horn is. I think it's a trumpet-like thing. I don't know. I don't know. But she was able to play with all the keys, and use it, and it was exactly how it is in real life. It's very accurate, and some people have even been able to develop things like skiing, like learning how to swerve back and forth. And like I said, how you can feel the leg movements. You can feel the same movements. A few Olympic athletes practice lucid dreaming. It's very interesting. But anyway, so the story goes, I'm studying to become a professional musician, and I wish to remove my fear of performing in front of people. On several occasions, I placed myself in a state of self-hypnosis, daydreaming, by relaxing my entire body and mind before going to sleep. Then I focused on my desire to have a dream in which I was performing for a large audience by myself. But, let me see where I missed my spot. But was not nervous of suffering from any anxiety. On the third night of this experiment, I had a lucid dream in which I was performing a solo recital without accompaniment at Orchestra Hall in Chicago, a place where I had performed once before, but in full orchestra. I felt no anxiety regarding the audience, and every note that I played made me feel even more confident. I played perfectly a piece that I had heard only once before and never attempted to play, and the ovation I received added to my confidence. When I woke up, I made a quick note of the dream and the piece that I played. While practicing the next day, I sight read the piece and played it nearly perfectly. 2 weeks and a few lucid dream performances later, I performed Shostakovich's, I think I said that right, Fifth Symphony with the orchestra. For the first time, nerves did not hamper my playing, and the performance went extremely well. So you can kind of see lucid dreaming actually is very similar also to hypnosis because you can do similar things with hypnosis and lucid dreaming. Okay. All right. Now, the last one, finishing unfinished business or meeting past loved ones. When my grandmother died several years ago, I was terribly unhappy for many months. She had been my artistic inspiration and mentor. I had been extremely close to her. How close I did not realize until after her death. Nothing I did seemed to help me feel all right about it. My husband reminded me of my ability to have lucid dreams. I had been dreaming about her, and he suggested that I could use seeing her as a lucidity cue. Or, just let me interject, that's another example of a dream sign, is seeing a past relative. Anyway, I decided to do so. For once lucid, I could ask her how she was and where she was, and to tell her once again how I loved her and how much she had given me as an artistic legacy. The next time she appeared in my dreams, I was too sad. I didn't remember my intention to recognize. I was dreaming, so I couldn't carry out my plan. A few nights later, I dreamed of her again. I had prepared myself in advance by telling myself during the day, if I dream of Grams, I will remember that it is a dream. This time I did become lucid. I knew clearly it was a dream, and yet she was so vivid and real. It was just as if she were alive. When I asked her how she was, she answered with some despair. Oh, darling, I don't know. I don't seem to know where I am. This dream left me feeling both elated that I had made contact with her and distraught that she was disturbed. Of course, many questions tumbled out from my troubled mind. Is she really someplace? Is this only my imagination? I was unsure what to think. So I was eager to talk with her again. 2 weeks later, I dreamed of her again and immediately became aware that I was dreaming. I asked her how she was and where she was. She said, I'm not feeling so unsettled, Lori, and said something I could not quite understand about existing fairly happily somewhere. I hugged her a long time and told her, while trying not to cry more than a little, how I loved her and always would, and how she had inspired my dancing, and that she would always be with me. In the dream, she looked exactly like she had in life, with her beautiful, noble face, and I awoke reassured. Perhaps I truly contacted her spirit. Perhaps I simply spoke with my inner self. I do not know. I just know that after these two dreams, something settled in me. I felt in touch with some part of my grandmother and had said what I had so much wanted to say to her. I was able very soon, let me see what that says. Uh, can't read that. I was able very soon after these dreams to let my sadness slip away from me. There's something in the way here. I can't move. It's kind of annoying. Um, but yeah, this is an example of someone meeting a dead, deceased relative that meant a lot to this person. You know, how powerful would it be to meet this person physically again, feel their touch, feel them in the room as if they're really there? I picked this example because she wasn't sure if it was her grams or not. So keep that in mind. Some clients, if you end up working with lucid dreaming, they might not be sure if it's really them or not. Some people will be fully committed to saying, yes, it was her. Um, I know for a fact it was. I felt it in my heart. Like I know it was her. Um, but others might not be so inclined to think that. But even so, she felt very happy afterward because she felt like she was at peace with her grams. Uh, this often happens too, comparatively, when you meet like a wise and loving being. If it ends up being a relative, they're sometimes in hypnosis, people are unsure if it's really them. Um, so it's kind of very similar in that way. So what else can you do with lucid dreaming? A better question would be, what else can't you do? So, but here's a list of some things. Astral projection or out of body experiences, you can induce them in a lucid dream. Overcoming fears and anxieties, improve creativity, enhance emotional regulation, explore alternative realities, travel and exploration, mindful practice or meditation, meet with your inner child or your shadow self. And last but not least, sex. You can have all types of sex. Don't get any funny ideas, okay? All right. You can literally do anything. And I even say we have barely scratched the surface of what we can do in lucid dreams. I have some wild and out theories of what I kind of want to see if we can do. Like one of them is time travel. I would be curious if that's possible, or like learn how to do telekinesis or learn like spiritual practices and then take them to the real world, like learn how to do Reiki or something. It's interesting concepts like that. interest me, or like seeing a past life. That'd be really cool. Um, so those are just some ideas of what I think you might be able to do. Okay. So ways to have lucid dreams. So these are just some of the techniques that have been created and used before hypnosis came into the picture. So most of these don't have anything to do with hypnosis. I'm going to be going into the hypnosis part later. So reality testing. I got another goofy photo for you there. So this guy's sticking his finger through his hand. Now, in real life, you're not able to do that. But in a dream, you are able to do that. So a reality test is something that changes from if you're in a dream to if you're in waking life. So if you do a reality test, you do these throughout the day randomly, maybe 10 or 15 times a day, just randomly. You say, "Am I dreaming? Huh, let me check. Nope, I'm not dreaming because I can't poke my finger through my hand." But if it happens and you can, then you're like, "Oh, I must be dreaming. I can't do this in real life." So another example of a reality check is jumping in place. If you jump in real life, you're going to float back down. Not float, you're going to fall back down. Don't actually fall. Be careful. Um, and then in a dream, what usually happens is you either fly or you like float or hover back down. And that can be an indication. So what you would do is you'd ask yourself, huh, I wonder if I'm dreaming right now. And then you would jump. And in the dream, if you start flying, then you're like, oh, I must be in a dream. Reading words or numbers. Words or numbers in real life don't change unless you're looking at a clock. Um, but words and numbers do change in dreams. Often you can look at a set of numbers or words and they will change if you turn your head and look back at them. Or you'll notice that they're like symbols and not even actual intelligible words. So that's a key indicator. So if you could ask yourself again, what you do is you ask yourself, am I dreaming? And then you do a reality check and you look for words. Um, you want to kind of pick one of these reality checks. Don't do all of these, but usually people pick one of them to do, and you do it 10 to 15 times a day. And if you do it at that 10 to 15 times a day, you're more likely to do it at night. Another one is plugging your nose. You plug your nose in real life, you can't breathe out your nose. But if you do it in a dream, you can breathe out your nose. So these are all just checks to see if you're actually in a dream. Um, the reason now, a lot of weird stuff can happen in dreams. So it makes you wonder why we don't ever ask ourselves why we don't ever realize it. But the real question is you never ask. You never asked yourself, am I dreaming? When we develop the habit of asking ourselves if we're dreaming, then we develop the habit of asking ourselves in a dream if we're dreaming. So it becomes a habit. Okay. Dream journaling. Keeping a dream journal to record and reflect on your dreams can increase dream recall and awareness, making it easier to recognize when you're dreaming. So, like it says, you can create or not create. You can cause yourself to remember your dreams more vividly and clearly. Um, Essentially, what you're doing is you're telling your mind that dreams are important to you, so you're writing them down. And following the plot of dreams um, is another way of telling your subconscious mind that dreams are important to you. Um, this can be an enjoyable practice for those who study their dreams and try to find the meaning. Um, this can become cumbersome as the more dreams you have, the more you have to write. So, a workaround for this is to find an app. They have these dream recording apps where you could either use notes on your phone or Word docs on your computer. Uh, and you can type or text your dream, and that makes it so you're not writing everything physically down, which takes a lot longer. I tried this, and what dreams would normally take would to record would be 15 minutes. Now took only 5 minutes, so it's a lot less time. You can also, even if you're like in a rush and you can't even find time to text it, you get a voice recording app, and you could be like, you're just speaking your dream, and just the process of going from start to finish your dream that builds the memory recall of dreams. Okay. Western cultures, Western culture dreams are seen as insignificant and random. So culturally, they seem irrelevant. And that is why we don't remember our dreams, because we don't talk to them with other individuals. We don't discuss them around like a fire or around other people, you know. Whereas in indigenous groups and other Eastern traditions, dreams are seen as spiritual messages that offer insights into the minds. So dreams are often important for hypnotherapists. We talk about them all the time. So that's why people who are hypnotherapists usually have more dreams that are more profound. It's because they understand the spiritual significance of them. But for the average person, dreams aren't that significant. And for some, even, they're so insignificant that they don't remember any of their dreams at all. But dream journaling not only helps with dream recall, but it also helps you remember any dream. Like if you remember no dreams, if you start to write down the emotions or the thoughts you have when you wake up, it'll start to turn into like you'll remember a picture from a dream. And so you write everything you remember about that picture. And then the next week you're starting to remember a little fragment of the dream. And so that's kind of how you use dream journaling. Uh, the more important dreams are to the individual, the more likely they are to remember the dream. So if you ask the client, if you're working with the client that wants to remember their dreams, their lucid dream, you can ask them, why is it important to you to remember your dreams? And then you can give that suggestion in hypnosis. Also, the last thing for dream signs or for dream journaling is, as I mentioned before, you can recognize dream signs. Dream signs are anything that only would occur inside a dream, like a giraffe riding a unicycle. That only occurs in dreams. You would never see anything like that in real life, unless you watch weird television, maybe. Um, or things like being chased by an evil, abominable snowman. That's something that would be a dream sign. If you have a nightmare, nightmares can be good dream signs because not only can you notice these dream signs as you're having a nightmare, but then you can face the nightmare right then and there because you'll become lucid during your nightmare. These are so a dream journal, you're able to kind of catalog what are common dream signs. Some people's dreams are more like objective, like objectively weird, like they'll have random objects floating around or they'll have weird scenarios floating around. And you kind of figure out what category is most common in your dreams. So whether it's a scenario-based dream sign, like going back in time to like high school, um, or if it's like an object you always see, like weird things like purple cats and weird stuff, or if the things you do in your dreams are weird. Um, there's different categories if you look this up on the internet. I don't have enough time to go into everything in detail today, but that's something I recommend looking into if you want to do lucid dreaming is look into dream signs. Okay. I wanted to mention too at that point is that this course is kind of a it's kind of like a introduction to lucid dreaming, so we're not going to go very in depth in everything. Um, if you want an in-depth understanding of lucid dreaming, I have a book at the end, not written by me, that I read that taught me how to lucid dream very well. So, the next method of dream recall is wake back to bed. Do I have any questions at all or anything? Everyone following? Cool. No one's sleeping? If you're sleeping, you get an A plus actually, because that's what this class is about. You guys are doing great. Okay. Um, so the wake back to bed method. This is where you wake up after 4 to 6 hours of sleep, and then you stay awake for 15 minutes, and then return to bed. This can increase your ability to have a lucid dream. Now, these are the old techniques that have been proposed with the lucid dreamers out there in the world. I don't recommend this because it interrupts sleep and it can also cause sleep disturbances. Um, but it can be a very effective tool. So sometimes I'll even use this. I won't use this. I'll use a similar tool to this, but only on nights to where like I know I can sleep in. Like so you can do these techniques, but just keep in mind I would do it sparingly, you know. Um, these are often used other with other induction techniques like the next one here. So the mnemonic induction of lucid dreaming technique. Before falling asleep, set the intention to recognize when you're dreaming and then repeat the phrase like, I will remember I'm dreaming. So you just essentially repeat this phrase until you fall asleep. The more you repeat the phrase, the more it gets suggested in the subconscious mind, which will allow you um, to remember your dreaming. This is a memory-based uh, technique, so it's basically a practice of memorizing or remembering to wake up in a dream. Um, the term mnemonic means something used to assist with memory, as an easily remembered acronym or verse. So this is often used with the wake back to bed method. Um, Results don't occur as easily when you're initially falling asleep. Because if you look at the sleep cycles of of humans, um, it takes us a longer time to get into REM at the first stage of sleep, and we're in REM for a shorter amount of time, and then we get out of REM, we wake up. Usually, we don't actually physically wake up; we just get less REM, and then we go to sleep again. It takes us a shorter amount of time, and we get a longer REM cycle. And by the end of the night, the time we're awake is very short, and we can fall asleep longer and have a longer REM cycle. So that's why they recommend to do this in the middle of the night or at the early stages of waking up. Uh, Again, I don't recommend this technique, but it is the most effective technique thus far in inducing a lucid dream. Wake initiated lucid dream. This is very similar to mild, except instead of using memory recall, you're essentially meditating. You're thinking of your breathing, you're focusing on your breathing, or you're focusing on your body's meridian points, like the tapping points, or you could focus on your chakras. The Buddhists focus on a flower in the middle of their neck, right here. And the thought is that the throat chakra has something to do um, with going into the dream state. Whether that's true, I'm not sure, but that's just what they do. Um, this is effective for people who nap or wake up at night. So all these techniques where you're like the mild, the wake back to bed, and this technique are very good for clients that fall asleep really, really fast. For those clients that take a long time to fall asleep or are prone to insomnia, I would not recommend any of these techniques. In general, I don't recommend these techniques unless you can sleep in, and even at that, sparingly. Um, but it's important to know these topics because if you have a client coming in to learn lucid dreaming, they're probably going to talk about some of these techniques, so it's important to know them. Another thing that I do not highly I would never recommend is using supplements to induce lucid dreaming. It says that these may increase the likelihood of having a lucid dream, but studies have shown that there's no insignificant results while using these substances. Ethically, we can't recommend anyone to take supplements anyway, so just the knowledge of this is important, I think. A light stimulation, this one's kind of interesting. Essentially, what happens is it can detect when we're in REM sleep and it will shine a red light onto the eyes, just like it shows. Um, and essentially, what it's doing is it's giving yourself a dream sign. And you'll notice a red light in your dreams. And usually, what will happen is the person will wake up and remember the red light and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm dreaming." And then they become lucid. This I again wouldn't recommend because it often interferes with sleep. It probably is very uncomfortable, um, and it's not very natural. Oftentimes, from the studies I've read on this, is that instead of waking up in the dream, the person actually just wakes up because it's a really bright light. So keep that in mind. Visualization. Before falling asleep, visualize yourself in a dream scenario and acknowledge that it's a dream. This can help you develop the skill of recognizing when you're dreaming. I feel like this technique is really good for those who want to use it in hypnosis or self hypnosis. You kind of do this right before you go to bed. You imagine yourself in going in a dream, and then you imagine yourself waking up in that dream, and then you imagine yourself doing your goal that you set for yourself in the lucid dream. Okay. This is probably one of the key points that you guys should take home is that it takes, with these techniques so far, it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of patience. In our world where everything is a now, now, now type of thing, where we want stuff now, we want things to occur right now. Lucid dreaming is not one of those things that can occur right now, unless you do like the very difficult techniques that can occur, that can cause them to occur more frequently. But even then, those techniques don't happen all the time. So it's important to know that regularly practicing these techniques and being patient with your progress can increase the chances of having a lucid dream. Oftentimes, people will do a technique for a week and give up because it doesn't work. And so some clients, if you have them trying to teach them how to lucid dream, um, they might get discouraged and kind of give up. So keep that in mind. Um, as of now, to have a lucid dream seems to be a task that takes a lot of devotion and commitment from these techniques I've described. The effortful ways of forcing lucid dreams causes a loss of sleep and sometimes a lot of frustration. As I mentioned before, studies show that the mild technique to be the most effective to induce a lucid dream at will. Yet it comes at a very high cost for the individual's sleep. So that's where it comes into, are there any effortless ways or less uh like more subtle ways to induce a lucid dream? And that's where the hypnotic techniques come into play. So the technique of auto-suggestion or telling yourself an affirmation. So this was the technique that I used to create my first lucid dream, and I think it was after 3 nights maybe of doing it, I eventually had one. So you pretty much suggest that you will have a lucid dream tonight or a night in the near future. Patricia Garfield has claimed that this technique can produce, on average, 4 lucid dreams a month and a high of 3 dreams in a week. Now, keep in mind, even with this technique, it does take consistency. You have to remember to tell yourself before you go to bed, you just tell yourself, tonight or a night in the near future, I will remember, or I will remember to have a dream, a lucid dream. And this has worked for me. Sometimes I forget to do this technique and I don't have a lucid dream for a while. But on average, I have about one lucid dream a month. Sometimes it can be like three or four. Meditation. This is another technique you can use to enhance your likelihood of having a lucid dream. Andrew Holkek, a Buddhist teacher, suggests that those who meditate often have more lucid dreaming experiences. This may be because this is a form of mindfulness or not focusing on the thoughts rushing throughout our head. Now, the idea proposed by Buddhists is that we're essentially dreaming during the day. We're not really focused on what's happening immediately in front of us. We're always, you know, having something in our mind. Like, think about when you're driving a car, how often are you actually focusing on driving that car? Oftentimes, your head is off somewhere else. And that's the idea that these Buddhists propose, is that a daily practice of meditation will cause you to be more mindful and will cause you to have more lucid dreams, because lucid dreaming is a practice of mindfulness. Because in our dreams, the plot just goes on and ends. You don't ever stop and think like what's going on. It just kind of happens. But if we stop ourselves during the day and be mindful, then it's more likely that we'll have more lucid dreams. So hypnosis and meditation are often seen as very similar, but in the context of lucid dreaming, they're actually quite different. Um, Hypnosis is a form of escape. So if you guys remember, we bring the anxiety up for the client, and then we go and escape. And often the mind wanders off and kind of doesn't even focus on what the hypnotist is saying. And it doesn't matter because we're only talking to the subconscious mind. Meditation, however, we're often focusing on our breath. We're focusing on like meridian points or the chakras, and we're actually attuned to our environment. So it's very different. Hypnosis is more like an escape. Meditation is more like being mindful. So that's the key difference there. Post hypnotic suggestion. Now, you guys have heard this term used at HMI, but this term is used also by psychologist Stephen LaBerge, and it's not the same meaning. It essentially means a suggestion that after the hypnosis, you will have a lucid dream. So it's essentially saying you'll get a hypnosis tape and say tonight or a night in the near future you'll have a lucid dream, and then you'll fall asleep later than that day and then have a lucid dream. That's post hypnotic suggestion. Um, so according to Stephen LaBerge, the post hypnotic suggestion could greatly enhance your likelihood of lucid dreaming. Charles Chart, another psychologist, says hypnosis may be the most powerful technique for contact control via pre-sleep suggestions. Now, I looked up the studies on hypnosis related to lucid dreaming, and there's actually not a lot of information out there for this topic, um, which is actually promising. It means that we can try to do this and see how effective it is. Uh, It says here though they already done very small sample studies, and it's shown to be very effective. Um, okay. Considerations for the hypnotic techniques. So if you're working with someone who wants to learn lucid dreaming, you want to get an indication of their level of stress. Higher levels of stress will make it harder for an individual to be devoted to the practice of lucid dreaming because it does take a devotion. Um, if they're not willing to be devoted to it, tell them to, go in VR, do something like that. This is a very, I would say, a spiritual practice that takes a lot of commitment. Um, the level of sleep quality. If you're having a client who has insomnia, has trouble falling asleep, or doesn't feel very rested, or even doesn't get enough hours of sleep, it might not be recommended to do lucid dreaming because it can affect your sleep. How fast an individual falls asleep, that's important to know by what technique to use in hypnosis. Um, there is the induction technique, which I'm going to talk about later, to induce a lucid dream in hypnosis, which is different from the post hypnotic suggestion, which is where you suggest after hypnosis you'll have a lucid dream. An induction is having a lucid dream while in hypnosis. Um, People who fall asleep really, really fast are more likely to be good candidates for the induction technique. People who take a long time to fall asleep wouldn't. So if you got a client that falls asleep in your chair, you can't, keep awake in hypnosis, that would be a good client. Reasons. So the next thing is the motivation level of having a lucid dream. Now, most of these people, if you end up having clients for this, are coming to you for lucid dreaming. So their motivation level will probably be pretty high. But if it isn't, like if it's not a 9 or 10, it's like a 4, 5, or 6, maybe ask them like what's going on there because that indicates there's something underlying going on. Um, it could be as simple as they've tried everything under the sun to lucid dream and they couldn't. So they're kind of burnt out by trying. Um, Reasons why they want to have a lucid dream. That's important for the suggestions and the hypnosis portion. You want to know why they want to do it so you can have them imagine it in hypnosis. Um, Ask if they had a lucid dream before. This is very difficult to distinguish because people who haven't had a lucid dream before, it's very hard for them to tell if they've had a lucid dream before or not. So that goes into my next point, um, which is creating a baseline goal. You see, if you create a baseline goal or a set um, specific goal for them to do in lucid dreaming, then they will for sure know if they're lucid dreaming. If you just suggest to them that they'll have a lucid dream and they never had one before, they're not going to know if they even had one. Okay. So these are indications of being in a lucid dream. So as I talked about before, the hyper focus or the visual enhancement. So things become hyper 3D, hyper visual, like 4K on steroids. It's a really cool experience. Um, Compared to regular dreams, dreams are very fuzzy usually. Um, Feeling movements within your body and actually noticing them. That's not to say you can't feel stuff in regular dreams, but it's more pronounced in lucid dreams. Being aware that you're in a dream. Sometimes you can be aware that you're in a dream, but still remain in a dream because you kind of just, for whatever reason, don't become lucid. I've had that happen a couple times where I knew I was in a dream, but I still remained dreaming. But that's just one indication that you can be in a dream, a lucid dream. So the next one is disassociation with dream characters, objects, and the plot of the dream. So as we said, a dream usually has a plot. Usually like something happens, you're with a group of people, something else happens, and then you do a bunch of different things in the dream. And it feels like you're making choices in the dream, but really you're making choices because you think that the dream is actual reality. So if you in a dream take yourself out of the story of the plot, then that's probably a lucid dream because you're saying, wait a minute, this isn't real, this is a dream. I had the goal of seeing my inner child in my dream, I don't care about, Santa Claus riding a pony right now. I I can focus on something else. Um, so dream characters, if you disassociate from them, um, so I think I mentioned before, usually if you're talking to a dream character in a regular dream, um, you'll pay attention to what they're saying because you feel like they're a real person. But when you dissociate from that, you realize that they're a dream character, and so you're able to ignore them. I've had dreams where this guy who was my mechanic in the dream was talking to me, and then I realized I was dreaming. I did a dream sign, I looked at my hand, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." And during that time, this mechanic was still talking in my ear, and I wasn't even paying attention to him. Um, and I ended up walking away from him because I wanted to see what it was like to lucid dream. And he was still in the car talking as if I was sitting in the car. So sometimes if characters aren't looking at you, or if they're talking but you can't even like really hear what they're saying, um, that's because they're following the script of the dream. You see, every dream has a script, and if you go away from the script still tries to play out, um, but you kind of ignore it. Um, and objects in the dream, if you're doing something with an object, you'll often forget about that object and go on to something else. So memory recall of objective to lucid dream. So this is probably the most one of the most important with the in conjunction with the visual enhancement. You want to have a memory recall of objective for lucid dream. If you don't set an objective, especially for your first lucid dream, you're not going to realize it. So if someone has a lot of flying dreams and they want to fly in their lucid dreams, that wouldn't be a good objective for their first lucid dream because it's something that they already do in dreams, and so it's going to be hard to distinguish um, when they're lucid or not. So if you give them the objective of instead of asking a dream character if they're in a dream, that's a good objective, and it's an easy one. It's a really short one. Um, or you can have them do a reality check. That's an easy goal. Is just remember to do a reality check. Um, or you can have them um, visualize a dream sign that they want to distinguish. Like, let's say they had a dream in the past about a rose, and they didn't understand the meaning behind it, so they want to spawn the rose. Like your goal in the dream is to spawn the rose. If you never have a dream about spawning a rose, then that's how you know you're probably not lucid dreaming. Um, so, um, okay, there was a practice I wanted to do. Um, pretty much is like you can do this after this session, but like imagine you're driving. Like try to actually focus on exactly what you're doing. You're driving a car, you're turning, you're not thinking about anything. That's what lucid dreaming feels like. You're actually in the present moment. It's like meditation. Another way to do that is to practice what lucid dreaming feels like is look at your hand, study the colors on your hand, and just focus on that. Don't focus on any thoughts running through your head. That's kind of what lucid dreaming is like. That's what it feels like. So if you do that practice, that's kind of what it's like. It's where you empty your thoughts. You don't have to close your eyes or anything. You just focus on where you're at right now. Like, how did I get in this seat right here? What am I doing right now? What happened before this? What's going to happen next? Stuff like that. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. Considerations for hypnotherapy and dreaming. So hypnosis and lucid dreaming are very similar. things therapeutically. So there can be instances if you end up doing this in your practice where it might be better to do hypnosis, if you can persuade your client that wants to lucid dream to do that. Most clients will want to do just the lucid dreaming. They'll want to come to you for lucid dreaming. They might not even want to come to you for therapy. They just want to be hypnotized to lucid dream. Hypnosis has quicker and faster results. So you can meet your inner child in a lucid dream, but you can do it right away in hypnosis. So hypnosis is a lot quicker results. Lucid dreaming is a lot more profound and a lot more intense, and it's a lot more memorable than hypnosis. Not to discard or discourage hypnosis in general, but that comparatively, lucid dreaming is a lot more profound. Having a psychological disorder may be counterintuitive or counterindicated um, when working with individuals who want to lucid dream, especially those with sleep disorders, hallucinations, or neurotic disorders. Because especially if they have like a neurotic personality, like they're easily scared or something, um, if they end up having sleep paralysis and they end up seeing one of those entities, they're going to be freaked out and they're never going to be able to sleep again because they're going to be terrified of falling asleep. For most individuals, they'll be okay. Um, but if they come to you with a sleep, not a sleep disorder, a psychological disorder, I would maybe get a referral, um, just because it's kind of working with that subconscious. Um, One exception, not for the referral, but like exception for not being counterindicated, is working with people with PTSD. People who have PTSD and PTSD nightmares, it's actually really beneficial for them to do lucid dreaming because they can end those reoccurring nightmares. You can imagine the guys that went to combat and keep having those visual um, nightmares of that. Um, Imagine being able to get those dreams to stop. There's been studies on this, and it's a very powerful technique to allow them to recover from PTSD. I recommend not to push for lucid dreaming, just like you wouldn't push someone to do a past life regression. It's very similar in that way that you don't want to push someone into a spiritual practice because they might not be attuned to it. Now, if they're interested in things like dream analysis or past life regression or any other spiritual practice like um, tarot reading, or if they're very spiritually uh, like attuned or into spirituality, they might be interested in it. So you could give the suggestion like, "Hey, have you thought of doing lucid dreaming?" Um, but I wouldn't. Again, even in that case, I wouldn't push it on them. Wouldn't be like, "You need to do lucid dreaming." You know, it's not good. Um, Monitor the quality of their sleep throughout the whole process of from start to finish on those sessions for lucid dreaming. If they're starting to lose sleep, be aware of that and just monitor that. Also, monitor their levels of stress. If they're becoming more stressed, it might not be best to continue because this can create stress. But I found that lucid dreaming actually helps with stress. But for those who like do the crazy techniques like that, wake up in the middle of the night, you want to make sure they're not doing that because that can interfere with their sleep. So we talked earlier about can you induce a lucid dream with hypnosis? So in order to do this, I haven't seen any studies on this, but it's been a question that's been asked, I've heard. Um, you would need to get them to a depth lower than the hypnoidal depth. You would essentially need to bring them to a state of sleep. So you guys remember this from 101 is where we bring their anxiety up and then They crash down into the depths of hypnosis. In order to induce a dream, you need to get them past that. Some clients that can fall asleep really fast would be able to do this, but your clients that don't wouldn't be able to, most likely. The only problem is I am not entirely sure if it's possible, but for them to have a lucid dream is you would have to wake them up while they're sleeping in hypnosis. So what you could say is, let's say what you could do is have them lift the finger, and then when you notice the finger falling down, that's an indication they're that they're asleep, um, because they forgot to keep the finger up. And so after that, you could suggest that they're going to enter the dream stage. And then after that, you can suggest them that you're going to notice that you're dreaming and you're going to wake up in your dream. And I would recommend probably giving a silence to let them experience the lucid dream. Um, I kind of compare this to past life regression and BQH sessions because those sessions are very long. And I've often wondered, I haven't experienced it myself, but I often wonder if those sessions are actually inducing lucid dreams. Because the past life regressions, for some people, it feels like they're physically there and it feels like they're actually seeing stuff. Then it's more likely that they're having a dream-like scenario that's very guided, per se, because you're getting um, talk from the hypnotherapist about being in your past life or whatnot. So that's an interesting theory I'm proposing. Is past life regression and lucid dreaming the same? I'm not sure. I don't think exactly the same, but it could be potentially very similar. So, some considerations for inducing lucid dreaming in hypnosis is how fast they can fall asleep, and also the problem of the high level of expectation. So, if you tell someone, yes, we're going to induce a lucid dream today in hypnosis, and it doesn't happen, then you're going to lose rapport. So, what you could do is that you're going to listen to this tape. You could tell them, you're going to listen to this tape, and eventually, from listening to this over and over again, you're eventually going to have a lucid dream during the tape. There's a lot of YouTube videos on the internet that claim to induce lucid dreams in hypnosis, or guided meditation is usually what they're called. But from my experience, I try these a lot and they never work for me. But I go into the comment sections and people say, yes, it works. So it seems like it does work that we can induce lucid dreams with hypnosis. The problem is we need to find the right key to do that. Um, okay. So I think personally this might not be the best approach because there's still, even if you tell them that eventually in the tape you'll have a lucid dream, there's kind of a high expectation. And it can cause frustration from the client. I think the better approach would be the post-hypnotic suggestion. I think that would be a better approach for that. So I came up with kind of a sound formula that you guys can use for your clients. I haven't currently used this myself, but I think this would be a good one. And I'll explain why I haven't used this in a moment. But what you could do is a progressive relaxation. Um, and after that, you have them visualize the dream state, just like the technique we talked about earlier, visualizing the dream, have them go into a dream. It's daydreaming, but they're visualizing a dream. And then have them imagine that they're waking up in the dream, and then remind them of their goal of why they want to lucid dream. And then you kind of pause and let them do all of that. And then you could do it again. Have them go to another dream and have them practice waking up in the dream and doing the goal of what they want to do in the lucid dream, like if they want to meet their inner child or something. And after that, you could suggest to the client that they will have a lucid dream tonight or a night in the near future. You can also give them suggestions of how amazing it will be when they will finally be able to lucid dream and remind them of why they want to do lucid dream in the first place. Give them positive reinforcement and suggestions. A potential addition, and I'm not sure if I'll add this personally, but give like a moment of like a long silent audio, like for 5 or 10 minutes, of allowing them to meditate. This might be good before the hypnosis, and it might be good for after the hypnosis. I'm not too sure yet. But that's a key consideration because the combination of meditating with hypnosis is a double combo that will help because one is creating mindfulness and one is creating suggestion to the subconscious mind. So the combination will work really well together. You could also just tell them that after the hypnosis or before it to meditate on their own. Okay. Hey, Anthony, I can't hear you.
That's the first time I did that. I never did that my entire year at HMI.
Ah,
Um, what's going on, man? How are you?
good. How are you?
Good, thanks. This has been great so far.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm glad it's great for you.
Thank you. Um, I was gonna say, would you feel like yoga is also equally effective there in terms of like meditation with hypnosis?
Because it's a mindful practice. Yeah, I think yoga or meditation would definitely be good for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, thanks.
Sweet. I need to get back on the yoga mat. I haven't done it in a long time. Yeah.
I've been doing it like probably once a week for the past year, and it's been phenomenal. Yeah, it really does like help bridge that mind body connection big time.
Mhm. It's healing too. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing, Anthony. Um, okay, some additions to post-hypnotic suggestion would be so some things that the client could do for like homework is dream journaling. This is especially true if they can't remember any of their dreams at all. You're going to want them to have dream recall. Meditation or yoga. That would be a good in conjunction with hypnosis. And like I said, it could either be attached to the hypnosis tape or you could just tell them to do it for homework. Reality checks. So checking like jumping or, poking their finger. It's an easy one. I don't recommend jumping because um, like if you jump in public, people are going to stare at you funny. So um, that's just me. Um, Auto suggestion or the affirmations. You can tell them in addition to because you're already going to give them suggestions like um, tonight or a night in the near future. I will have a lucid dream, but you can give them an affirmation as well, like an additional one that they can do it again, like right before they go to bed. Um, and you can also add in to the affirmation the reasons why they want to do uh, lucid dreaming to reinforce that motivation. So, like I said, there's a lot of need for more research on this. There's only been two studies I've seen on hypnosis, post-hypnotic suggestions, and the other. I haven't seen any on inducing a lucid dream in hypnosis. So I saw some similar studies, but I haven't seen too many. So there's a lot of methods, and I'm curious which one is best hypnotically. We already know the mild technique is the best, but I'm curious because one of the slides mentioned the affirmation or the auto-suggestion method seems very promising. You can have upwards of 3 lucid dreams a week. But I'm also curious. how effective the post-hypnotic suggestion is, which one's better. So that's why I'm actually proposing for any of you guys to join a study, if you feel so inclined to learn how to lucid dream. Now, the stuff I gave you today, you're already going to be able to go home and do it yourself. But if you wanted like individual coaching, I'm just offering that for free as part of this study. Um, so another thing is if you're going to do this for your clients, you need to do the craft itself. Um, you can't teach a client something that you haven't done. So, I saw in the case histories, there's one of a client learning lucid dreaming from an instructor. And I won't mention any names, but the instructor, you could tell, I don't think had a lucid dream because they explained it completely wrong. They were talking about out of body experiences and not lucid dreaming. Um, so you could tell the client was visually confused because she had no idea what she was talking about. Um, the the hypnotherapist had good intentions, but good intentions doesn't get us anywhere if we can't help a client lucid dream. In that series of sessions, the client didn't end up having any more lucid dreams. And so the client, I would imagine, almost felt like they wasted their time. So if you're going to teach this, you need to know how to do it. You can't, what they say, like you can't teach, a blind man can't teach someone how to see or whatever the slogan is. Forget, you got to learn this stuff yourself. Um, so yeah, this is just another invitation to join the study. You get personalized coaching. If you don't want to hear my amazing voice in the hypnosis, you can join the affirmation group where I won't be talking in your ear. So there's that. So it's just going to be kind of learning. The benefit is you're going to learn how to lucid dream from someone who's done it before, which is me. I've had over 40 lucid dreams this far in the past 2 years. Um, and it's been quite the experience. And I think it's a good cause too, because not only can we help more people lucid dream, but we're going to be able to create maybe a program that we can teach other hypnotherapists to do, and it can be a good program for them. So that's that. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to ask or share? You want to see maybe if you had a lucid dream or not, or this is the end of the presentation. So I appreciate you guys coming out and listening.